Yes, hi, hello, and welcome. We are broadcasting live from Global AIPreneurs, the premier global gateway and unified operating system for trusted AI enterprises. Right now, we are witnessing an unprecedented paradigm shift that AI landscape is expanding exponentially, stretching across 8 plus categories and over 120 distinct technologies. Yet this explosion has brought an unintended bottleneck. Enterprise buyers are facing severe decision paralysis, investors are swimming in unvetted noise, and brilliant founders remain isolated from the cross border institutional bridges they need to scale. The results are clear: capital inefficiency and deployment friction. Promoted by the Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade and the Global Council for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. Global AIPreneurs was built to change that narrative. We are moving decisively past passive directories. We are a multi layer engagement engine spanning technical, operational reviews, and community rankings, connecting enterprises' demand directly with trusted AI supply. Operating across over primary global hubs in India, Singapore, UAE, Saudi Arabia, the USA, the UK, Switzerland, and the EU, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and Nigeria. We are bridging the gap between raw potential and institutional deployment. Today, as part of our visionary interview series, we are charting the future of this ecosystem. Joining us as a leader who embodies what exactly it means to be built with high intent, high density, and absolute impact. Bheki Gumede, thank you for joining us today to help the shape the future of global AI trainers. Bheki Gumede is a respected technology executive, fintech leader, ecosystem builder, and business transformation professionally with extensive experience at the intersection of artificial intelligence, blockchain, digital assets, financial services, and emerging technologies across Africa and global markets. As senior business development and sales executive at ARREL, he worked closely with banks, financial institutes, fintechs, enterprises, regulators, and governments to accelerate the adoption of institutional grade digital asset infrastructure, and next generation financial technologies. Throughout his career, Becky has been passionate about translating complex technologies into practical business solutions that drive measurable economic impact. Prior to joining the ARREL, he served as a local director and head of operations at Elocor, where he played an important role in supporting the company's expansion across multiple African markets while gaining deep expertise in fintech operations, regularity engagement, compliance, and cross-border digital finance. Beyond his corporate leadership, Becky is a strong advocate for responsible innovation, financial inclusion, and ecosystem collaboration. He is the producer and host of the UI Unplugged podcast, where he engages with entrepreneurs, researchers, technology leaders, and policymakers to explore the real-world impact of artificial intelligence, blockchain, automation, digital transformation, and the future of work. He also contributes to the global technology ecosystem through the United of Smart Sustainable Cities initiatives promoting AI-enabled governance, digital public infrastructure, smart cities, and sustainable economic development, driven by the belief that technology alone does not transform industries, but the partnerships, trust, collaboration, and execution do. Becky continues to helping bridging the innovation with commercial adoption while strengthening Africa's role in the global digital economy. Thank you for joining us, Becky, today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you for the very well thought out and very well presented brief summary of my career. I appreciate that. Just to kick this off, I'm Bheki Gumede. I'm based in South Africa, Durban, KZN region. And I've had the pleasure of interacting with a lot of different industries, and particularly as mentioned, I've interacted with the blockchain industry, fintech, cryptocurrency, more of late now digital assets infrastructure, and so forth, and AI. I'm currently also pursuing my MBA in artificial intelligence. And I've also got, because I'm very passionate about educating and sharing information. I've also got as she said, I've got a podcast which is called AI Unplugged. But my career began and started well in 2017, 2018. When I was approached by International Crypto Exchange that she's mentioned, which is Yellow Card, and they were looking for a point of presence in South Africa. I was very fortunate to get this call and took up the opportunity to be a local director and head of operations and actually start this work of starting a startup. Because they had just come up from doing a pilot in Nigeria and were looking to expand into the rest of the African market. And I was interested to actually start with them and actually grow within the company, which was on its own a self-learning opportunity for me, because I had just been recently introduced to cryptocurrency and blockchain technology. But because I was eager, I saw this opportunity and jumped on it with both hands and both legs, and I was thrown in the deep. But I'm fortunate to say through that interaction, it actually landed to me where I am today. And one has actually grown from there to then. Over the period of time, I've worked with other multinationals based in the US, in Dubai, in the EU, in various intersections. I've worked with other white label digital infrastructure, blockchain infrastructure platforms. In Dubai, I've worked with global houses which were looking to fund entrepreneurs within the African region, and I've been able to successfully say I've benefited a lot by working with a variety of these industry players and also interact with these various technologies across the board.
Thank you, Becky, for the insightful and inspiring perspectives. So, I'd like to ask a few questions to explore your vision and experience in greater depth. So, shall we start now?
Certainly, I welcome that.
Yes. So, my first question, having worked extensively across AI, blockchain, digital assets, and financial infrastructure, you have constantly emphasized solving real businesses problems rather than adopting technology for its own sake. As organizations increasingly embrace AI, what practical approach should businesses leaders take to ensure AI delivers measurable commercial values rather than simply becoming another technology initiative?
Well, my operating philosophy after 15 years or so of experience in business development, it's simple. Technology can only be ends its place if it solves real issues or if it solves real problems. And it has to solve measurable problems. So it has to be solving something tangible. And I saw this firsthand when I launched Yellow Card here in South Africa. The technology only mattered because it was solving real issues and real problems that South African were facing. And that was people getting access into dollars and remittances. Because at that point in time, when we launched in South Africa in 2018, 2019, through traditional financial institutions such as bank, remittances, and access to dollars, one, it's expensive. It's expensive, it takes time, and some are excluded from accessing those. So the test I'd offer any leader isn't how we use AI, but is for leaders to ask, what's the most expensive or slowest process in the business? And then from then look at if AI is the right tool to fix it. And I've seen this firsthand in my work as a capital raise and strategic investment work that I've done. I've seen it played constantly. I saw how the venture funds were actually, or the ventures that were getting funded because they were able to prove something. They had numbers that they could show. They could show that their solutions and what they developed was one, saving time, hours saved. it was maybe reducing cost, or it was actually unlocking revenue that was locked. So it was showing that it was solving something tangible and that's real. It wasn't that it was the flashiest or the most innovative technology story, but it was something that it was solving real world issues. So I'll tell any business leaders to apply that same discipline in their businesses to prove that the return on investment on in one narrow painful process. Now, don't try and roll it out throughout the entire company. Start small and then scale. So maybe start with one department and see what that solution is solving. And I believe at ARREL, where I'm currently at as a senior executive, sales executive, that is what we have been able to solve. And we've got a product that works greatly and works well for institutions. It's a product called DAPL. It's a digital asset infrastructure platform. And this works because it solves a concrete operational problems for institutions. Institutions have problem with custody. They've got problem with compliance. You know how banks are with compliance. It's a very critical issue, and execution of digital assets. So it's not that the solution it's because it's using blockchain or it's using AI, and it sounds nice when you say it. It's a fancy word. It's a fancy word when you use on a pitch deck, but it's what it actually solves and what it actually does that matters.
Thank you for sharing those invaluable insights to our Global AIPreneurs community. So I'd like to move my next question. You have worked closely with banks, fintechs, regulators, governments, and enterprise across Africa while helping organizations adopting emerging technologies. From your experience, what are the biggest opportunities and challenges facing AI startups that want to scale across Africa and other emerging markets?
Well, this is close. This is hits very close to me. At Yellow Card, I was able to help the company which was launching here in South Africa. It had less than 100 users. I was able to help it scale from those 100 to over 1,000 to over 100,000 active users, and not only just help scale it locally, but I was also able to launch the entity into expand it into five other African markets. And I was able to do so. And on top of that, I also contributed to the company's initial fundraising initiative, which was the seed and the Series A rounds, which total around about $45 million at the early. So I've actually seen the issues from the ground up. And the opportunity, especially here in Africa, as an emerging continent, is huge because Africa has actually leapfrogged legacy infrastructure. Africa as a region, we are a mobile-first population. There's not a household where you'll find that doesn't have a smartphone. Every household in South Africa has a smartphone. In fact, if not every person in that household has a smartphone. So we can see that there are actual needs that can be solved. So one, Africa is a mobile-first population with general needs which are unmet. And those needs are one, payments issues, remittances issues, and financial inclusion, meaning that AI and digital tools can solve problems people are really feeling, problems that people are experiencing on a day-to-day, not problems that are manufactured by any startup sitting in a boardroom or sitting in a fancy offices. So the challenges are real, and I've lived through them personally. So one of the other things is there's regulatory fragmentation, which is a big one, which founders and AI entrepreneurs need to be aware of. What works here in South Africa or what works in any African region does not necessarily mean it will work in another. So what works in South Africa needs to be re-engineered for it to work in Nigeria, Kenya, or Ghana, because those places, they have their own issues. They might be similar, but the nuances of those issues will differ from country to country, from region to regions. And I've spent time with Yellow Card as also as a regulatory liaison officer, public representative, that is, which saw me engaging policymakers, banks from market to market. And this is not an optional overhead. So no business can afford to say we can't afford to have a regulatory liaison officer within our company. It's something that's actually required if that business or that startup actually wants to work and scale throughout the continent. They will succeed in one area, but if they want to scale throughout the continent or in other regions, they will need to have that in place. So my advice to any founder is go deep in one market. Don't try to be linear. Go deep in one market first. Prove that your solution, your product, your model, it actually works. Go out there, test it out, pilot it out, test it out, reiterate, fix it, try and confirm to make sure that people are giving you feedback to improve on it, and it actually works, and it works to the better of what your customers are really needing it for, not what you think they need it for. So test it against your customers. That way, you'll be able to expand delivery from market to market. But also keep in mind, you need to have local regulatory and banking relationships. So you need to have relationships, speak to the bank, speak to your compliance officers, speak to the local regulatory authorities, so that to make sure your business is able to operate and not have to be shut down while it's scaling up. So don't try and launch all over the show. Don't try and launch Pan-African, launch here, all at the same time. Start small from one place. Make sure that you are able to cement your product and make sure it works well in that, and then scales into the rest of the other regions.
That's very practical perspective. So successfully expanding into emerging markets requires more than innovative technology. It demands trusted partnership and needed for the regions and regulatory understanding and a deep appreciation of local markets dynamics. So yes, so let's move to other question. So you have often spoken about the convergence of artificial intelligence, blockchain, digital assets, and tokenization. How do you see these technologies working together to reshape financial services, public infrastructure, and digital economics over the next 5 years?
Well, I've watched this convergence build over my career. For instance, for a company that I used to work for, which is called Scalable Solutions, based in Dubai, it's as a white label blockchain infrastructure, building out the exchange, working with tokenization, digital asset solutions for institutional players. Now I'm here at ARREL, and we are working with digital assets infrastructure, where we are building institutional grade solutions for custody, execution, compliance on the same foundation or on top of that same foundation, which is your blockchain infrastructure or tokenization and so forth. So the pattern is consistent. Blockchain and tokenization, they solve a problem of who owns what, and can we move it instantly? That's what blockchain solves. AI solve what's the smartest decision to solve this problem. And if you put both of these together, what you get is you get a financial system which then prices, verifies, and settles in real time instead of days or instead of months. So they work well together combined. A complete example of that in my world is AI-driven portfolio rebalancing, or rebalancing of a portfolio which is managed by AI, and not an individual looking at it and making sure he balances the portfolio. So AI driven portfolio rebalancing, compliance monitoring. That compliance is done by AI automatically. Nobody, no compliance officer doing the monitoring of those transactions that could be happening or on an hourly basis or in a minute or 24/7. Because with blockchain, there's no shutdown time. Everything happens in real time and it happens 24/7. So on top of that, sits tokenized assets which can be able to settle instantly. So it's not something that's a 5-year plan. It's actually an infrastructure that's currently in existence and that's being built right now as we have built it here at ARREL. So what I see over the next 5 years is this. Over the next 5 years, what I expect more real world assets. So I expect your real estate, your private credit, your lending, raw minerals or mineral rights to get tokenized. So with AI handling the compliance side of it, the compliance checks and execution on top of that infrastructure of digital assets and tokenization. So for public infrastructure specifically, I look at cross-border payments and remittances, and I know this firsthand while working for Yellow Card. This infrastructure provides a cheaper and safer and faster way, whereas with traditional financial institutions such as banks, there was friction there. And with these platforms that we are utilizing now, utilizing AI and blockchains, it removes the frictions and people and businesses are able to transact much quicker and much easier. So in my closing, I would say the technology is ahead of regulation. Technology is always ahead of regulation. So it's not how fast this actually shows up in the world. What's happening now, we are seeing that over the next period of 5 years, I see technology just tracking where regulation is, where with the technology itself being there and just making sure that technology is agreeing and matching up to what the technology has developed or what the technology has built. And I've lived in this gap and I've seen it market by market. And I expect over the next period of 5 years, this will start exploding and it will start being more formalized as far as regulation is concerned.
Thank you. Thank you for highlighting those exciting possibilities. That convergence of these technologies has the potential to fundamentally transform how businesses and banks and the society operates. So let's move to next question. So through your AI Unplugged podcast and your involvement with initiatives like United for Smart Sustainable Cities, you have actively promoted educational responsible innovation and ecosystem collaboration. What role do you knowledge sharing, private partnership, and cross-border collaboration play in accelerating responsible AI adoption globally?
So I've sat on both sides of this. Whilst the Yellow Card as a regulatory liaison and public representative of Yellow Card, I engage policymakers and banks directly. But I'm also very passionate about social work. So I used to be a chairman of a nonprofit organization called Bheki Foundation, where I was able to lead initiative where we utilized blockchain and cryptocurrency technology to empower marginalized communities who didn't have access to certain tools, who didn't have access to certain financial technologies that they needed to be able just to do normal day-to-day things, such as buying of groceries and just making sure they're able to purchase stuff from distant lands without having to travel to those areas. So I've seen how this has worked out, and which is why I believe the combination of institutional credibility plus the grassroots impact work is exactly why cross-border collaboration matters. It matters to me personally, not just professionally, because as I said, I'm passionate as well about social work and how technology can then empower and drive reform or change. As far as knowledge sharing, through my AI Unplugged podcast, it exists because I believe AI adoption gaps are not technical. So it's not about people not knowing what the technology is going to be doing. It's about translation the gaps. So it's about helping leaders and policymakers understand what's real versus the hype. Because when you throw out AI, everybody over the internet will give you a spew of ideas and the hype around what these platforms and what these solutions are able to do. So giving the public and information will help them to empower them make informed decisions and help them make decisions that will help them better themselves. As far as cross-border collaboration specifically, through my capital raise and strategic investment work, which spans across Africa, Europe, the US, and the Latin region, I saw directly how fragmented standards were slowed down, which slowed down capital and technology deployment across borders. So funding was there, technology was there, but the deployment was slowed down because there was no collaboration. So you can send funds into cross-border into another region, but because of regulatory issues and because those countries were not communicating, the beneficiaries of those funds were not able to access those funds timeously or when they are supposed to get them to be able to do whatever they needed to do. So I do believe a shared baseline for things like data provenance and AI transparency would build up trust building the same way it has speeded up cross-border payment or cross-border dealings. Right now, you are sitting, I believe, in India. I'm sitting in South Africa, and we are able to converse and communicate in this manner and host this lovely interview because of that. So I do believe over a period of time, it's necessary, and we should embrace it.
Those are truly valuable insights. It's sustainable innovation and built through collaboration and shared knowledge. So I'd like to ask one final question before we conclude. Global AIpreneurs is building a trusted ecosystem connecting AI founders, enterprises, investors, governments, researchers, and innovation leaders worldwide. Based on your experience building strategic partnerships across Africa and global markets, what role can global AIpreneurs play in accelerating trusted AI commercialization?
Well, my capital raise and strategic investment work has shown me exactly where deal stall or where they fail. It's rarely technology. It's always about trust and access. So investors which have the capital, they don't know which AI funders are credible. They haven't vetted them. So they don't know who to invest their money in. Funders, they don't know which enterprise are serious. They go into a lot of these meetings where they're meeting and they're doing their pitch decks, and they are not know if any of those VCs are actually credible, or if they actually have the capital to deploy to actually find them. So I do love what Global AIpreneurs is building, because I do believe a curated, trusted network that connects builders, capital and enterprise buyers directly is what's needed because it's going to shorten the discovery cycle significantly. So especially across borders, there's no network that naturally exists that actually does this. On how ARREL and I personally could contribute, well, this is really where my background comes together. First, ARREL, as a digital asset infrastructure platform, it has developed and built a solution or a platform which handles compliance, institutional grade compliance, custody, execution, which is relevant for any AI driven fintech or a tokenization venture that needs to be enterprise ready or not just a demo that needs to be ready so that it can be funded or so that it can deploy or actually scale. But also, secondly, as an individual, I believe through my deal originating network and capital raise work, I personally could help connect global AI entrepreneurs and AI founders to be connected to vetted institutional capital so I could help those able to be able to access capital. But thirdly, I do believe through my track record, building an African market entry institutions or companies such as Yellow Card, plus the regular relationship that came with it, which came with its own lessons. I believe I can help bridge the AI native builders to traditional financial institution that needs a compliant and on-ramp to digital assets. And in summary and in closing, I do believe generally that what Global AI Unplugged is doing is something that's really fundamentally something that's really going to change how this place and how entrepreneurs, especially, are able to get assistance from a global platform, but also connect with global leaders, not just global leaders, to access funding, to access expertise and collaborations, which is what I believe matters most above all.
I think that gives our audience a lot to reflect on. What an exceptional and inspiring conversation. Thank you, Bheki, for sharing your valuable insights and expertise and global perspectives with the global AIpreneur communities on your insights on artificial intelligence, on blockchain and digital assets and financial innovation and whatever the things and the breakthroughs, but also by the trusted collaboration, commercial execution, and meaningful partnerships that create lasting social and economic impact.
Thank you very much for having me. I look forward to the rest of other episodes from my fellow colleagues.
Yeah, thank you. And to everyone joining us from around the world, thank you for being part of today's session. The future of artificial intelligence will be defined not only by breakthrough technologies, but also by the ecosystems that enable trusted collaboration, global talent, responsible innovation, and sustainable enterprise growth. If you are an AI founder, innovator, investor, enterprise leader, or polymaker looking to become part of a trusted global AI ecosystem, we invite you to join us and Global AIpreneurs. Thank you for joining us today. Until next time, keep innovating, keep collaborating, and together let's build a trusted, intelligent, and globally connected AI futures. Thank you, Bheki. Thank you for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thank you very much. You take care.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah, bye.